Hello folks, this is Tom from anti-proton.com, and you all liked the last video where I just talked about the most random shit possible. Did I say shit? Yes I did. Whatever, you know. My unscripted videos, you guys liked that. Now I'm in the middle of making like normal videos too. I've made some, so nobody kill me. I'm working on a couple more too, so this isn't in place of it. But I thought I would toss another one of these out there because everybody seemed to like it. Like I figured everybody was going to be like, oh, this sucks. People liked it for unknown reasons, so I'm putting out both videos. This isn't hard because I just invent stuff. I have like a list of a couple things over here I want to mention, but I really haven't looked into any of this. I'm just kind of like talking, and for whatever reason, people like that. This is unscripted, so I'm going to try not to bring up facts and figures, and 23% of people think that 65% of figures are 95% of the time 3% accurate. But if I do bring out any actual percentages and stuff like that, if I foolishly enough mention something like that, I'm not going to like make it up, but you know, take it with a grain of salt, because I'm not like looking up the numbers here. Although I shouldn't do that because that would be wrong. If you're not going to look up the figures before you say them, you shouldn't say them, right? But anyway, so here I am. I have things to talk about, and I still have a fruit fly invasion. I am using little traps all over the place with like the vinegar and everything like that, and they are dying. But there goes one. They keep going by it. I hate fruit flies. The basement laboratory seems to be their last bastion, their last place. That and the kitchen. They like those two places. Everywhere else they've pretty much left from. I hate fruit flies. I hate them. I even have this cat sitting here, and its job is to attack the fruit flies while I am standing here. And it does a decent job of catching them. This is Lab Assistant Mew. Right, Lab Assistant Mew? He's not the brightest cat in the world. He's actually dumb as hell. The other Lab Assistant Driss, is exceptionally intelligent for a cat. And in fact, the absolute value of their IQs is probably equal. One being vastly high, one being vastly low. Well, the absolute value of the difference between the mean and their actual IQ. So anyway, let's get into some stuff. Number one, some upcoming videos. Dare I even mention that I'm doing the upcoming video on the cosmic stuff? Because I haven't already brought that up 40 times over the last like 3 months. I know, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I've got a lot of data to go through. I'm in the middle of a book. For the astronomy club that I belong to, I need to get that together because I'm kind of making it for them too. I'm also doing something on solar fusion for them over the next couple of 2 or 3 days, so I'm just going to turn that into a video as well. I mean, why not a video of the PNP solar fusion chain, because that's how the sun works, and that's kind of neat, right? Right? You like it? The next thing up on my list is going to be telescope lenses. I had decided to make a big F-off telescope. Now, how am I going to do this, you say? Now, this could totally fail. So I could spend like $1 bazillion and buy a giant telescope mirror. I use mirrored telescopes. They're called Newtonian Reflector Telescopes, as opposed to Refractor Telescopes. The long tubey ones that like the light goes through, and you look on one end and you see out the other, kind of like a binocular, sort of the same kind of idea. Those are called Refractor Telescopes because they refract light. Reflector telescopes, those ones that a lot of people find kind of weird, where you're like looking in the front, like, you know, there's this long tube and you're like looking sideways into it from the front, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Those are reflectors. They were made popular by Newton, so that's why they're called Newtonian reflectors. Well, anyway, I'm going to make a really big one, and I'm going to do it in a very strange sort of way. Are you just about done, Mew? You think you may be just a little bit done? Huh? He speaks sometimes if you talk to him. Mew! He's not speaking. He'll usually make a noise back at you if you make a little sound at him. So I bought a couple of these test mirrors to start with. Now they're wrapped up inside of plastic. I'm going to pull one out for you. These are not high quality. They're not meant to be high quality. If this works, I'm going to buy really good high quality telescope grade lenses or mirrors. And here's how the idea works. I have a bunch of them in a circle, all reflecting into a center mirror, which then reflects back at me, kind of like what's called, if you're familiar with the Schmidt-Cassegrain design. So basically, light's going to come down. Okay, light from the candle is going to fly over and hit a mirror, and then bounce to another mirror, and then go through to my eye. And there'll be a lot of these mirrors all the way around, all focused onto the same point. Now, will that work? I don't know. I was talking with some folks at the astronomy club. Everybody at my astronomy club is like, not every single person, but half of them are like physicists, which is really useful because you don't have to explain anything to them. They just kind of know. And they didn't all seem to think it would work. but they didn't all say it wouldn't work. And I've talked to several scientists who think it will work, and my own laser experiments suggest to me it would work. I believe the laws of reflection are on my side, but I'm going to clean this thing off after I'm done. Whoa. There, now you can see exactly what type of camera I have. It has a short focal length. It's dirty. The hell? So like I buy this thing, it's dirty. So much for like optical grade awesomeness. This thing is dirty as hell. Anyway, they're not for making a telescope. Those are for a test to see if the telescope works. I'll have two of them pointed at a single mirror, which then goes back to me, so that I can see things off in the distance. We'll see if it works. If it does, I'll buy a bunch of 3-inch ones and put them all the way around and make basically the equivalent of an 18 to 20-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain, which will be badass. Just like a donkey that doesn't do what you want it to do, it will be a badass. So anyway, that will be awesome if that actually works. I've ordered these two. They were like nothing to order. They took forever though. Freaking Amazon Prime. 2-day delivery, they say. Normally they're like, oh my god, anything. I could go like tonight at like 11 p.m. and click the order button for a can of freaking like peanuts, and it will be on my doorstep 48 hours later. Sunday, rain, storm, doesn't matter. But these mirrors, they took like days and days and days to get here for no particular reason. Alright, let's see here. Oh, I showed this on my Twitter feed, and some people liked it, so I thought I might bring it up and show it to you guys. This video is backwards, so like I don't know why it's set to backwards, but this is called the Steele's series in the natural science, natural philosophy, and let me like adjust myself such that you can see it a little bit. It has a picture of a view of Pisa, Italy, for like no particular reason. Isn't that nice? Yay. And it says physics in 14 weeks. Ancient physics from before we knew anything in 14 weeks. Now, what year is this Scooby thing? I love this though. Let's talk about how dated it is. It says God in like every page. Why? It's not so much because they attribute anything in here to God per se. It's because they were religious back then. So people always say like the founding documents of the United States of America they talk about God. No, they don't really actually. They're pretty secular. They mention God a lot because people back then used God in everything because that was how they were. It's kind of like these days you could see an atheist walking down the street and he like trips and he's like, God damn it. Well, the reason they say it isn't because they're religious, because it's just part of our vernacular. So anyway, let's see here. It says, the works of God are fair and not unless, unless our eyes in seeing see hidden in the thing the thought that animates its being. Interesting. I do like that. That's kind of neat. It was published by A.S. Barnes and Company. I wonder if that's Barnes and Noble. I wonder. I don't actually know. I was ignorant of that. I was ignorant. Well, anyway, by the same author. Apparently this dude writes everything. I'm assuming it's a dude. Yeah, me being sexist. Although for the record, they're pretty sexist. I bet you money it's not a woman. Because back in these days, they were like against women for everything. Don't get me wrong. I like adore women and think that they should write lots of books. But you know, back in these days, they didn't let women do anything. But anyway, so let's see. Physiology, zoology, chemistry. It says new nomenclature. Oh, chemistry is the new nomenclature. Let's see, chemistry, the old nomenclature. I'm going to have to look up and see exactly what nomenclatures refer to with respect to chemistry. I kind of know what the word means, but not what it means with respect to chemistry. Astronomy, geology, the revised edition. They probably just figured out that the Earth wasn't flat. They're like, yeah, we've revised it. I'm joking. They're not that bad. Let's see here. Key with answers to practical questions and problems. Postpaid at $1.25. Now, when this was made in 1878, I bet you $1.25 was a hells of a lot of money. That was probably like $100 or something. So it goes on and on and on. And it talks about the most amusing stuff. They actually understand a lot for this time period, though. They really do. They understand a lot for this time period. But what I can't get over is the very, very end, if you go to a modern day physics book and look in the end, you're going to see nuclear physics and antimatter and stuff like that. In the end of this one, which is where all the new stuff is, we talk about electromagnetism and electricity. If one has a sufficiently powerful chemical battery, it is possible to create a capacitance. And that's pretty much what they're talking about. I love these figures. These little things, whatever the hell they are. And yes, this book is so far beyond copyright. Do not even begin to be all like, oh, you're showing copyright stuff, yeah. Yes, I am, yeah. It even has little handwritten notes in the back of it, too. Like little goofy handwritten notes. Goofy handwritten notes. And they're inverted, so you can't see. So, like, this is one of my bazillion books. I have an antique book collection. See, my antiques, a lot of people have, like, antiques. I don't consider an antique to be an antique unless it is at least 100 years old. That's my minimum age for antiques. I like stuff that's like 300 to 400 years old. That's my personal preference. Or even getting into the multi-thousands of years old, depending on what it is. I do have some old things. I don't mean like fossils that are millions of years old. I'm talking like objects that people made. So let's put that down over here. Moving right along. I have a compass, so that I know what direction I'm in. I have a compass that I got. I picked it up at my dad's house. I've showed it before in 1 or 2 videos long ago in the days of yore. I'm going to show it again. The concept is to show you like what you could do with a Geiger counter, like what you could find. And I'm always going on about how like compasses and watches are just horrible. They're always radioactive. Like, and they're not always radioactive, but they're always radioactive. Like, you know, any compass or watch from about like maybe 1912, 1915, somewhere there, to about 1970 something, late 70s, somewhere there, is suspect. Doesn't mean it's radioactive, but it's suspect. Those old plastic West clocks that you like fold up and you can travel with them. Anything luminous dialed, you know, all that kind of stuff. Army compasses, you know, they often have radioactive material in them. Usually it's going to be radium-226 or promethium-1. What is promethium? Is it promethium-147? I think off the top of my head. Don't shoot me if I got that one wrong. I don't have every freaking radionuclide memorized. Let's get into another rant. Isotopes and radionuclides. I would like to point out that I, Tom, am stupid. A lot of you are like, been arguing with that point for years. Now you admit it. Well, anyway, I used to call radionuclides isotopes because that's what everyone calls. That's what your college instructor calls them. That's what your physics books call them. But it turns out that isotope is something you shouldn't be using. I haven't used isotope as isotope for years now because I was educated. But I still see it used all the time, and I was wrong. So I mean, I did this myself. So I'm not like better than all of you, and I've always known. No. I did the same damn thing everyone else does. Basically, whenever you have like hydrogen or helium or some particular element, you have different variations of it that all have the same. They're all the same thing. They're all hydrogen. They're all neon. They're all potassium. But they have a different number of neutrons, a different count of neutrons, which doesn't change what they are, but it changes how they interact a little bit. Those are called isotopes. So equal members is what it is. Isotopes. So if I said that, well, we have some potassium right here, and this is potassium 39, this is potassium 40, the number's increasing because you're having more and more neutrons that mixed into it. So this is potassium 41. Those are isotopes of potassium. So I could be like, well, let's take this isotope potassium, or this potassium isotope. That would be perfectly fine to say. But if I were saying something like, well, there's probably radioactive material in this room, I'm sure we can detect some isotopes. That's not correct. Because you're not saying that there's one particular thing and you're like looking for variations of it. You're looking for just radioactive material in general. Whenever you talk about atoms, why does my hair just have to be in my damn eye? I mean, like, I really have this urge to just cut it off right now. Like, pull out a freaking 16-inch Bowie knife and cut the damn thing off. By the way, I'm going to stop for a minute and just give you a quick rant on why it is that women do this. You ever notice how women walk out of stores and they're just like, they do little head jerks and they're like, psh, psh. I always attributed that, as the sexist little creature that I am, I always attributed that to being a female thing. Well, guess what? It's not. It's a long hair thing. And since like men basically always have short hair, they don't always. Plenty of men nowadays have long hair, but men basically for the most part have short hair, and women often, very often have long hair, right? So these are common things. We took 100 women, 100 men, statistically looked at them. You're going to find women that are bald-headed, and you're going to find men that have like, you know, hair down to their butts. But the reality is, the majority of the men are going to be shorter hair, the majority of the women will be longer hair. The hair flicking comes from longer hair. Once I got longer hair, I all of a sudden when I got in the car, I could like flick my hair all the time. I mean, I'm constantly flicking my hair, doing the head flick to get the hair out of your way, and I realized that's not a female thing. That's a long hair thing. Also, the length of time it takes to get ready, that's not a female thing. That's a long hair thing. Once I got long hair, I added at least a half an hour to getting ready in the morning, maybe 45 minutes. Because damn. I mean, when I had short hair, I could just be like, water, soap, water, towel, done. I mean, I was done in like 120 seconds or something. I mean, not really. It's like 5 minutes in the shower, less than that. But now that I have long hair, it's like, and it takes forever to wash it. So, like, anytime I ever thought that when I was younger, I was being a misogynist asshole. But that's okay, because I forgive people for that. I'm not like a super feminist that thinks like, oh, you are a misogynist, you are an evil person, you should burn in hell. No. People think what they do. The act of people thinking things and stereotyping and stuff like that is perfectly normal. It shouldn't be done. We should strive against, terrible stereotypes and racism and stuff. But the reason it occurs is it's sort of a form of tribalism and everything. It comes from an evolutionary behavior that we humans have. And when you use that behavior in ancient times, it makes a lot of sense. It was useful. It's one of the reasons we got to this point now and we're alive. We hated everyone else and stuck to ourselves and everything. Now that we're in this more amazing advanced society, we need to learn to get past that because bigotry sucks. So, you get the point, hopefully. Now, getting back to isotopes. Isotopes are when you're talking about equal members of the same type of element that just have different numbers of neutrons. When you're talking about like different types of atomic structures, like this particular atom and this particular atom, they're called nucleides, not nucleotides. Nucleides. Some people say nuclides. I say nucleides. Close enough. So anyway, nucleides can sometimes be radioactive. When they are, they're called radionuclides. For example, if you're referring to all of the different isotopes of radioactive iodine, there's several, then it would be called radioiodine, which contains a bunch of nucleides, some of which are radioactive nucleides called radionuclides, which are all isotopes of one another. You get how the way that works now? So when you're out there when detecting something and you got like your X-ray detector, hooked up, and you're like, oops, drop that. I'm detecting something slightly radioactive. It's a radionuclide of some variety. But which radionuclide is it? Oh, look, it says right here. The radionuclide is cesium-137, which is an isotope of cesium. It's cesium number 137. Not 136, not 138, it's 137. So this isotope of cesium is a radionuclide. Got it? So I happen to have a $1,600 detector sitting right here, and another one, and another one. Okay, so I took a test to find out if I'm like hardcore authoritarian, right-wing, conservative, or a liberal. I was actually quite confused by what I got as a result. There is authoritarian, Hitler. There is libertarian, not Hitler. There is conservative. I'm not going to make a goofy thing for each one. And there is liberal. All right? I'm like over here. Apparently, I'm looking at my little chart over here. Apparently, I'm somewhere between a liberal and a libertarian. Like, I am the opposite of an authoritarian conservative. I'm not saying all conservatives are authoritarian, but up in that corner is the authoritarian and conservative. You can be conservative and libertarian, too. So, but up in that particular corner. So if we take this ancient book and we look at this, we have authoritarian, libertarian, conservative, liberal. I'm like here, kind of like right here, right by Noam Chomsky. What the hell? I'm by Noam Chomsky? I don't feel like it. I don't really like communism. I think communism sucks. I'm not terribly interested in socialism, so why the hell am I by Noam Chomsky? When I was going through the questions, they had questions like, should people be allowed to do things in the privacy of their home? I'm like, yes, strongly agree. Should gay people be allowed to be gay? Yes, strongly agree. Should like we impose our religious values on other people against their will? Strongly disagree. These are the things I think that put me over in the liberal camp. That's my guess. I don't know. I'm fine with corporations like making money and being corporations. So hell if I know how I ended up there. But, you know, I feel good because I'm on the opposite side of Hitler. Hitler's on the other side. Being a far away from Hitler, good thing. Being closer to Gandhi, I don't see why that's a really bad thing. I'm not trying to say Gandhi was perfect in everything he did, but he's not the worst guy to be compared to, right? I don't compare to Gandhi. Just be honest. I do not compare to Gandhi. That dude, like, one day did more than I've ever done. So he was actually a lawyer, interesting enough. Before he started wandering around doing Gandhi stuff, he was actually a lawyer. So Mahatma Gandhi means Father Gandhi, apparently, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not Indian, so, like, you know, who knows if I'm saying that right. But apparently Mahatma means father or something to that effect. So we'll find out if that's true one day. I'm sure you guys will be all like on there, you know, tearing me up over that. Incense. I'm just going to light my hair on fire. I've got incense burning right here. I have lots of incense. I have been burning incense like crazy. So, like, I don't know, I'm probably going to die of incense poisoning. I'm sure there's some sort of interesting thing that it can cause, probably similar to smoking. Everything else up here that's interesting. I'm still blown away by childbirth death. Childbirth death? Doesn't even make sense. But anyway, childhood birth mortality rates. When researching for my book, did you know that the death rates for females in the ancient days were high as a third? Oh my god. This is for my Neolithic period book. I just can't get over that. That's insane. So, like, the risk you would take as a woman having a baby, the risk. I mean, nowadays there's still a risk, but I mean, it's like not a very big risk. If you're in someplace like America, the risk is pretty damn small. You probably are going to come through just fine. But because you know, any operation, you go into an operation so they can take like a mole off your arm, and you've got, like, you know, you could just die in this horrible way. I mean, that's how operations are. There's all these horrible risks. But apparently, if you go back to the Neolithic and Mesolithic eras or periods, or whatever, you could be running a 1 in 3 risk of dying just having a child. But I mean, what else can you do? There's nothing else you can do. How else do you make babies? And it's so much fun to make babies. Come on, you know it's fun to make babies. But God, the risk. Now, apparently, after you have the first child, the probability of boo-boos occurring goes down, like, tremendously. So it's good to have a kid, because then you can have, like, more kids, and that's all good and everything like that. But my God, the risk involved is horrible. So I like to try to put that in my book, because they often go on about how the men are so tough and they're out there killing all the animals and taking these risks and everything, and they never look at the risks the women take doing such mundane things as childbirth. And of course, the risk of the child is ridiculous too. The likelihood of them making it through the first year is pretty low. After that, the likelihood of them going on afterwards goes up tremendously. So, and of course, a lot of that plays into evolution. You ever notice how nothing goes wrong with your body until you're like 35 to 40? I mean, that's not true. People, like, terrible, horrible things happen when you're young. But the reality is, most people you know of aren't picking up really horrible diseases and stuff until they hit about, 35, 40. Then all of a sudden, everything starts breaking and exploding, and parts like your nose just falls off for no reason. And the reason is because you have a biological reason to make it to that point. If you don't make it till 30, 45, people that didn't make it at 30, 45 because they had genetic problems and everything like that didn't procreate as often. So as a result of it, statistically speaking, you're more likely to make it to that point because you don't have those kinds of genetic stuff. People that made it past the age of procreation, 25 to 35, was the lifespan of most humans. So they were procreating a bit earlier than that, probably earlier than we would like to discuss. Once you get past that point and raising the children a little bit, things that would kill you wouldn't matter anymore because you were already dead to genetics, if you like. You weren't going to pass on your DNA. So that's why we have so many illnesses. We've, like, massively exceeded the period of time that we're conventionally fertile, which is quite interesting. No other species has done that I know of. I was reading an interesting article about that. Apparently elephants have a vastly lower incidence of cancer. One of the reasons may be, not is, maybe the fact that they apparently, as I have read, I am obviously not a expert of elephants, pachydermatologist, I just make that up, zoologist of some variety, according to BBC, they actually get more fertile and have a higher incidence of making babies and so on as they get older, which is sort of odd. Usually it goes the other way around. Usually you suddenly kind of go up from being young and then you like kind of do like that and then we'll back off. They seem to do this. So as a result of it, it actually helps them to be able to live much longer. And I still don't know why we kill elephants to begin with, since they actually have ritualistic things that seem to be, if you anthropomorphize them a bit, they seem to be almost religious in nature, although I guess there's no real way for us to know that. I think we will eventually discover that multiple types of animals are more advanced than we realize, although not necessarily directly analogous to us, meaning that they're not exact parallels. So we can't, as I said earlier, anthropomorphize them and necessarily see that they have rituals in so much as we would think they would be rituals, as there are probably other things that they consider to be equivalent to rituals that are relatively parallel to them. Maybe something even bordering in the hell's from my vent up there, bordering in is some kind of religion or maybe some sort of strange spiritualities. My mouth is like a bit. And that could be interesting. And in studying that, it might be also very useful in so much as that we might find aliens someday out in space. I feel like I should put the tinfoil hat on when I say it, but one day we could find aliens. We already found water on Mars. We already suspect there's water under Europa, a moon that's orbiting around. Was it Jupiter or Saturn? I can't remember. It's Jupiter. And at some point, we might actually find extraterrestrial life. If we do this, can you imagine how alien their thought patterns could be to us? They could be tremendously alien to us. And as a result of that, just looking at the animals we have on Earth and learning how they interact with their higher levels of intelligence. I don't mean higher levels than us. We're pretty damn smart. But you know what I mean, the higher thinking ones, like elephants, for example, and whales and stuff. It might actually help us with understanding how other creatures exist. One of the neatest things out there are squid and octopi. Squids, which are a form of cephalopod, have extremely advanced brains for what they are. They're beautiful little things. The cuttlefish, I love cuttlefish so much. They have a little cuttle bone in them, so they're probably called cuttlefish, but I call them cuttlefish because they're cuddly. I love them because they can change color, do all these neat things, and if you ever watch them, the male will even sit down beside the female and like stroke it randomly, like when it's having babies. So they're actually quite loving. I'd love to own one with pet as a pet just because it would be so neat to see it. But like I would never do it because I think too much of them to ever do that. That's why it's always horrifying to me when I see people with birds. They're feeding those little white things to the bird. That's a dead cuttlefish. That's where that comes from. It comes from cuttlefish. And since each cuttlefish has about the intelligence of a cat or a dog, that's what you're killing every time you give one of those to a bird. So like, oh my god. But I am thinking of buying some lizards. They're called anoles. I've owned them years ago. I call them anoles. It's a screw-up of English. They're not called anoles. I call them anoles. I incorrectly call them anoles. They're called anoles, but I like anole. I've owned dozens of them years ago, so I love the little things, little green things. Sometimes they're called chameleons. One of the first words I got really good at spelling, C-H-A-M-E-L-E-O-N, chameleon. But anyway, eventually I got into other words like electroencephalographic audiometry and endoplasmic reticulum, and yeah, but those are other words. Alright, so have I gone through everything I was going to go through? I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something, like there's a thing that I'm missing someplace. I can't wait till I get the artwork back from my books so I can show all of you the awesome pictures and everything like that too. That'll be interesting. I've got some more stuff to work on in my book. I'm hoping the book the second Ember book can be done by the end of this month. Well, the writing part of it. Then I need to do this like reading where I go through each page and like check every single conceivable thing out. And that'll be done by the end of November. I'm hoping to have the damn thing released sometime in December or January, probably January. I never make my December deadline. And I have 6 more books after that. So hopefully you guys found this of interest. Was there anything else I was going to bring up? I can't think of anything, but let me know if you have any suggestions of anything else you want me to talk about, because I love talking about stuff. And sometimes, I normally hold myself back when I'm talking to people because I kind of talk a little bit fast, I kind of think a little bit fast, and so people can't quite understand that. So I usually kind of gear myself down and try to hold myself back with the content filter, make sure I'm not using profanity or anything like that. But when I'm talking like this, I can just let it go, because I started out this video with my normal, clear, concise way. It's not really that clear. I actually suck at being concise, but so that you would understand it better. But as I kind of went along after a little while, I just kind of let go and just do the way I normally do, because this is the way I think, kind of, if you know what I mean. So it kind of feels better to relax and talk like that. So tell me if you like it. This is actually how I think normally. This is what goes through my head. This is why I never sleep. This is why I get confused a lot. So anyhow, this has been Tom from Untitled.com. I have a candle. There you go. So fruit flies are still attacking me, and I will see you later. Hopefully you like this. Where's the stop button? I don't know. Here it is, and catch you later.